whatever day you're watching this. So Mopar Chat Live, late night edition. Usually if I kick off a live show a little bit late, we'll kick it into a late night edition. If you're not familiar with the channel, the late night editions can be a little bit colorful. I have a tendency to let my hair down a little bit during the late night chats. Language can get a little bit more colorful, not necessarily always, but also not necessarily always family friendly. So anyway, there's your little bit of a warning coming into it. You never know what's going to come up or who's going to pop in. So anyway, that with a little bit of housekeeping as well. Going to be talking also during the late night shows. I'll typically bounce all over the place. There's really no rhyme or reason for what's coming out of my mouth. Sometimes it has to do really more with writer's block. Like I don't really have a topic, but I want to come and hang out with you guys. Other times I'll be in the process of developing another topic, and it'll kind of bleed into one of the shows or one of the channel live show opportunities. So that's kind of what's happening with this. I'm putting together more or less a live chat to talk about EVs. And the format of the way that this channel works is that you've got me yammering on for anywhere between 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes. And then I start taking questions from guys like you that may have a question about, it could be camshaft selection, supercharging. Sometimes the stuff gets really technical, and so I try to give those questions a clear opportunity. But speaking about questions, I do want to get into, what I want to get into is I want to get into a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to be killing the comment section for the channel, not for the live shows, but just for the generic videos that I put together. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I don't understand where some of the comments come from. But lately I've had to chop up a ton of comments or jump out in front of different folks, mainly just because it's, just either because the comments have been very off color in a negative way, aren't adding anything to the overall value of the channel, and are basically just trolls. And the funniest ones that I've been dealing with lately, and I don't know where these people come from, but it's actually pretty funny. You get guys that will make comments, and their comments are based in absolute, and any guy that's running a YouTube channel has to deal with this, but you get comments that are based in, like, these guys are so adamant that they're right, and they're so absolutely wrong. And it's hysterical because part of me wants to know, where did they get their information from, and why are they blindly believing it? So anyway, I've been running into that quite a bit, and I will give a lengthy response in some cases. And if they don't get it after that, then they immediately get kicked off the channel. So anyway, that list is ever growing. And, but anyway, it gets a little bit tiresome. So I just, to keep my sanity on some level here, it's probably best to just go ahead and kill it. Yeah, most of the time you guys are asking me questions and it's live and I get to answer, interact with you directly. But man, there's a lot of folks out there, especially lately, that have got a lot of bad information in their head. And it's like, they can't understand. It's the equivalent of me saying, look, the Easter Bunny ain't real. And having somebody get offended, like legit offended, that their shit isn't real. Like what they believed isn't real. And it's funny, but it's tragic in a way, because they're believing, or they've been told something. They're going off of like some level of, I don't know, like myth about something, or just really bad information, and can't understand that it's hard for me to explain something in response form if they've had a lifetime of believing bullshit. So anyway, that's one of the things that you might see, is you might see comments turned off or something like that. It's only because I do get a lot of questions. I try to answer as many as I can. But when some of them go off in a weird direction, And it's one thing if somebody's legitimately trying to learn and trying to understand, and it sucks because I'm going to be cutting some of those folks off, but y'all know where to find me. So Tuesdays and Saturdays, I'm a pretty easy guy to get a hold of. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. Let's see if we can't get some air conditioning going in this thing. Good night. But anyway, like stuff to chat about. So really on late night edition stuff, it's usually an open topic. And I may be a little bit more direct with either my comments, language, things like that. So again, little bit different personality you might see out of me. This is really more like we're just kind of hanging out at the track. But let me check in with you guys. Ripped is in. Got the flex. Gary's in. Say, what up, B? What up, Gary? Got the two of them. Man, I am sore. And I'm still trying to figure out how I can snap up a shoulder when I didn't even do nothing. Like, you'd think that I was just reaching over to grab something. And actually, I just got through really getting a good rehab on it, and that's probably why I snapped it up. Michael Corleone is in. Always one of the first in. Dr. Diff is in. What up, B? What up, Dr. Diff? Bruce is saying, evening, my fellow Texan. How are you and your family doing? Doing good. Thank you for asking, man. It is muggy as hell down here, too. And, just like any other springtime down here in Texas, you never know really what you're going to get. So, it'd be 55 one day, 85 the next. That's what we're dealing with right now. Oh, Doc's asking, what's the topic? If it's open topic, can we talk about transmission types, strength, building for Dodges? Yeah, sure. You can talk about it as much as you want. Slice saying, slap, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Man, you know what's funny about that? Apparently there was some shit that went down between him and Chris Rock, like way back in the day. I don't know what kind of drama we're talking about. But Will Smith is known for having a real fragile grip on his emotional health. I mean, the dude's known for, kind of losing it in this respect. So anyway, plus he's got to show out. I mean, look, it wasn't that long ago, and he was probably getting murked, by all the memes that he was being included on, or they were being made out of him, I should say, because his wife was fucking somebody else, and it's like, that's never a good look. And then now he's still with her. It's like, now he's got to be a big man about it. It's like, dude, yeah, that opportunity left a long time ago. So anyway, just kind of some interesting things that I pulled from it. Rich is saying, since I got my 270 pulley running on Echo with a tune, my car downshifts really hard from third to second to first. Is there a reason for that you know of? Not off the top of my head, not unless there's been some significant changes, unless you're talking about downshift as you're downshifting from a significant speed in sport or track mode. You shouldn't really notice it that much, though, if no transmission tune changes were made. I just can't think of anything. I don't know. Dr. Diff might have a different insight on that, but we never had to make changes like that, like line pressure, oncoming clutch, offcoming clutch, or anything like that. I mean, it's not like you have to, but it certainly shouldn't make a difference in downshifting. Unless you're really hauling it in from high speeds. And in that case, you will notice it. In fact, you'll notice it going when it comes out of adaptive, when you get into the ranges where it thinks that you're just out on a racetrack, it will definitely do that. Especially if you're hitting high RPM on shifts, sometimes it'll do it too, but not sure why it would do that. Especially if you're just kind of creeping into it, like you're just driving the thing. I wouldn't think that it would do that unless they made some changes to it. Randy saying, hey brother, checking in from Middle Tennessee. What's up? Tennessee, I like it. Rick is saying it seems to downshift hard when slowing down lightly, not hard. That It's actually inverse from what I would expect out of it. No, because on a soft downshift, your expected torque is still going to be the same. It's going to be negative in some cases, or at least at zero. If you're at slack throttle, especially for those such low gears. So I can't really, that would be a tough one to try to diagnose. Oh, Chuck's saying social media has its upside and downside. Yeah, it does. I mean, everything does. It's like there's a yin to every yang, right? And the thing is that I feel compelled to try to cure stupidity with some of these guys. And what's funny as hell is that it can be on practically any topic. But the biggest one is, okay, so one of the biggest issues that I run into are old school Mopar guys. They simply cannot accept the inferiority of those engines from back in the day. And it's funny because if they did any small amount of research, they would see that the Gen 1 Hemi guys had a lot to say about the Gen 2 Hemi. The funny thing about Mopar, and a cool question did pop. This is what I hate, is that there's some cool questions that'll pop up. And one of the questions that I got real recently was a guy, because I get so many, a lot of times I don't even look to see who's sending the message. I just answer the message. But we're talking about first muscle cars. And, my response was, 1958 was a banner year because you had the Belvedere with the Golden Commando 350, which was the first B-block, big block for Mopar. Just so happens that's the engine that was in Christine. The first year that engine was released was for the Belvedere. And the Belvedere, you could get it cheap Belvedere with a B-body big block, made about 305 horsepower. And it was kind of like, it was the beginnings of the muscle car. And of course, that block, the B block, would go on to become the 383, which was incredibly popular. So, the Roadrunner that you dearly love has its roots in a car that ended up being used for Christine. In fact, you can see that Golden Commando engine when Christine, I think it's after she gets through running somebody over or whatever. Anyway, the hood's open. You see the twin 4-barrel sitting on top. It's pretty sweet. But it was a Golden Commando 350. Anyway, that's part of the thing I'm going to miss a little bit. But some of the dumb fuckery that I'm not going to miss are guys that literally are believing in the Easter Bunny metaphorically and they're so damn adamant about their points. It's just like, dude, you don't know. I've lived this before. Like, this is the stuff that I've lived. And no, that's not the case. I read, and it's like, that was underrated. God, the Hemi being underrated is a fucking joke, man. And it just keeps getting, pounded into your head so much that eventually you start believing it's the dogma of Mopar. So anyway, that's one of the things that really, it's just stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, I just don't have time to keep schooling these folks. Half of them with their age, though, they're checking out soon anyway. So I guess that problem kind of fixes itself. Oh, Chuck saying that's why I left some of the Facebook groups. Trolls always have something negative to say no matter what the topic is. And the thing about it is that, and true that, Chuck, and as a matter of fact, the thing that sucks the most about it is that it's boring. Like, I love being able to bring the knowledge and the years of being in and around this stuff, whether it's car stuff, aviation, any of the internal combustion stuff, not really a lot of turbine stuff, but a lot of the things I've always been into, and some of my experience being a docent at an aviation museum, being the engine specialist, you think I might know a little bit about aviation stuff. My experience learning to become a pilot, there's just a lot of goofy little things in there that kind of play into hot rodding. So, anyway, long story short, yeah, it just sucks with some of that stuff. Dr. Diff's Mopar TSB calls it the 2-1 bump. I was saying, although the dealer using a program to help but not fix it, the zip usually doesn't, 99% of the time success rate. So what I did on mine to fix that is just, that's what's up. It's a nice humid spring night. Looks like somebody's heading out to Velocito to have some fun. Anyway, you can lower the speed at which it'll shift into first gear, and a lot of times that would cure it. I forget the year of cars and trucks that it mainly affected, but memory serves me correct, 15 and 16, 14, 15, and 16 trucks, and some of the 15 and 16 cars. Chandelier never really did that, but Shalandra did. So anyway, I played around with some shift points, and on downshift, it seemed to help a little bit. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Oh, I was talking about the Sonex deal. Let's see. Brando's saying I have a V6 Challenger and it came with paddle shifters when I bought it brand new in 2017. What are they for, and will they help it go faster, or what are they? Are they useless? It just allows you to be able to control what gear that you're in without using the console. That's cool if it had paddle shifters. Yeah, I guess they would. I don't know. Anyway, that's what they're there for. Superstock saying, good evening, B. Got the flex. I like it. Brando's asking, is the C8 Corvette considered a supercar because of the look and the engine in the back? No, not really. So a supercar can have an engine in the front or the mid. It could be anything. It could be in the very back, like a Porsche GT3 RS. You know, so a supercar, you know, there's not really a just dyed in the wool definition for that. You know, you would say that maybe a Ferrari 550 would be a supercar, but it's front engine rear drive the same way that the C6 Z06 or C7 Z06 would be laid out. So sometimes I think supercar just means super expensive, but it does kind of lend itself to mid-engine in a certain look. So I get where you're coming from with that. I would say no. Even the new Z06, it's hard to say. I think it's trying to be. It's on that same path, but I mean, is the Viper a supercar? It kind of is. It's maybe you could think of it like an American exotic in a way. Maybe that's the better term for it, is more or less a quasi-exotic might be the best way to look at them. Let's see. Oh, Doc's saying eBay's the cheapest for those things. Gary is in saying hello. Roy's saying, what up, B? What up, man? Chuck saying, still hearing about a Hemi Cuda coming out. Is it still speculation? I heard it will have a variety of engines, including a hybrid. Man, you know, to be honest with you, buddy, I don't know that you're going to see anything come from that. What they end up calling it, who knows? The hybrid option is always out there, but with a new platform comes new powertrain possibilities. You might see an HO version of the new GME T6 along with a hybrid transmission pair, which is in the works. You know, that's a potential place you could take that thing. And from there, I mean, you're looking at 500 plus maybe 130 horsepower. So, you know, out of the electric motor. So you could get 130 horsepower and say 250 pound-feet of torque on top of the 475 that it's already making. So it'd be very powerful, but you know, to be perfectly honest, you know, to call it the Cuda, a Hemi Cuda, if they're even going to have a Hemi engine option by then, it's really tough to say. And right now, because Dodge is being so freaking annoying with all this cloak and dagger shit that they're pulling, when's it coming? What's the new thing? And this is what's pissing me off. But the next video so the reason why we're doing a late night, and by the way, late nights usually run for about an hour. The reason why we're doing a late night is because I'm in the process of doing some more research on EVs, because I'm going to be doubling down and cracking on EVs again for the next show. And it's basically going to be where they at. We've had, just kind of in short, part of my argument is, I get sick and tired of hearing about EV. Where are they at? I mean, you got to be shitting me. You don't have to get an electric motor pushed through the EPA, because there ain't no tailpipe emissions, ain't no catalytic converters. What's the holdup? The other side of it, look, we've had lithium battery technology for forever. If it was like widely marketable and the marketplace would want it, they would have already been doing this a while back. There'd be a ton of city cars. You'd see all kinds of this kind of crap being pushed out there if it were economically viable. And obviously, you're talking about, well, the infrastructure. Look, infrastructure can eat a dick. Trust me when I tell you that every gas station would love to get a piece of that electric infrastructure. All you'd have to do is plop a charging station at any gas station, because I got news for you. Gas stations, they got them some electricities. This is not that hard. This is not that difficult of a transition. So where are they at? Number one. Number two, why the hell are they so fucking expensive? You mean to tell me that an electric motor, let me explain to you something. Air conditioner running in the background, it's got an electric motor. Electric motor starts my truck. HVAC in my truck runs on an electric motor. You got that RC truck over there is electric. It's basically the same thing as an electric car. Uses kind of the same battery technology. My point in this is not new technology. Speed controllers, rheostats, if you will, batteries and electric motors are about as old as it gets when it comes to driveline technology. Yet they want to charge how much for an EV? Are you flipping kidding me? It is the most narcissistic play that you can put out there to say, oh, just buy an EV. When realistically speaking, an EV should be about half the cost of an internal combustion engine when you really start and sit down and think about it. So, range be damned, and power whatever, yeah, they're going to be fast, they're going to do a lot of things, but what the hell? So anyway, I'm in the process of kind of collecting my thoughts, and that's kind of a quick tiptoe through the mind of me is just, I'm so frustrated by this Mopar thing with, the four-wheel frat song, burnout, and all this other crap, and everything else that's coming with it. You got Stellantis, small, medium, large, and truck platforms that they're not showing us anything. Nothing. They're dick riding GME T6, but they're showing us a Grand Caravan, which again is a $100,000 rig. How are you going to show me a $100,000 truck with a 6-cylinder? Meanwhile, Chevrolet is rolling out the Avi with a Brazilian pound-feet of torque. You got the new Silverado with all the electrics. You got the Lightning that's already out there, and the Rivan, or how you say the damn thing. That little heathen is out smoking fools left and right. Dodge is going to sit around and hold off? Dodge needs to be leading this, and Dodge is coming in at the opposite end of the trough that they need to be feeding at. I mean, you cannot be Dodge and suck hind tit when it comes to performance, but yet here we are. So anyway, that's kind of how that chat is going to go, although maybe not quite as colorful, because I got to keep it somewhat friendly. But the reality is that it is horror shit, and I'm sick of hearing about it from Dodge. I'm getting so turned off. There ain't nothing that is more flaccid inducing than having some entity sit there and try to build you up, and then have nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing to show for it. Talk about a freaking tease. And the thing about it is that Dodge could be doing right now, and again, I'm just kind of doing the show now on it, so let's bring it, because you might be having this come and repeat. But the reality is that Dodge hasn't even released the city car, the Stellantis STLA small platform. You would think, just think that would be one of the first and easiest things to kind of kick out of the nest. But instead, these little chickadees keep shitting up the freaking plot, and I'm sick of seeing it and hearing about it from every other manufacturer other than the one that was brought to us and sold to us with smoke, mirrors, rock and roll music, and the like, that this was going to be the next big thing. This is going to be huge. This is going to be this, that, or whatever. All the meanwhile, sitting their ass on the sidelines doing literally absolutely nothing to bring any light to the fact that they're bringing forth these EVs. You got GME T6, HO, and SO, and LMNO, and QPs, and all this other shit. They're doing all of that, but they're not bringing any value to the enthusiast. And that is my key point. Dodge, you're starting to lose people on this. And you're losing people that have been flying your freaking flag for a long time. And I got something else to tell you. For every moment that you're not coming out with that EV, your competition is coming out with something. Could be a little city car, little thing you can buzz around Chicago, San Francisco, LA, H-Town, or whatever. You know, something you can have for that type of a purpose. There's a monster market for that. These small commuter city car types that get 300 miles, people plug them in just like they plug in their phones. The trucks are going to be a big deal, and I mean a big deal, especially down here in Tejas and up in Oklahoma and Louisiana and the like. This is truck country, and it's literally sold and lived that way down here. Trucks are huge, literally and figuratively. The reason why trucks are so fucking big is because they're big-ass things that can carry a shitload of batteries and a lot of motors. That's the reason why you've got the Avi, which is so nasty. You've got the new Lightning that you can power your house for like 2 or 3 days on. You've got everything that's out there, but you've got absolutely nothing to show for it. And again, let me just be the one that tells you that when the Ford really starts rolling out, big seller, you're already having people that are placing orders and reserving their spot for the Silverado. For a company that promotes themselves with all the fervor of, you know, a college rugby party, you're not showing up and you're not backing up what you've been promoting now for so long. You know, the proof's in the first bite of the pudding, and the fact of the matter is, so far, this ain't pudding, Dodge. This is grade A dog shit. As far as I'm concerned, I'm losing interest at an astonishing rate. Stop with the stupid gimmicks and bring something to market before it's too late. Please. Oh, shoot. Hang on. Whoa. Timeout. Gary, man, thank you very much. I appreciate the super chat. It's extremely generous of you. Thank you. Saying no questions today, B. Thanks for the chat. We'll catch the rest later. My build pretty much planned out and almost complete. Thanks to the help of you and the hours of research on my end. Got to go to work, man. Bro, thank you very much for that. I truly, truly appreciate that, man. That's very generous of you, brother. Thank you so much. Man, I don't even know what to say other than it means the world to me, bro. Thank you very much. Man. But thank you, man. Let's see. Bear with me just 1 second, guys. Let me get back up here. Anyway, that's kind of my rant on that subject. And the issue that I see has a whole lot more to do with timing and the time to market. And since Dodge has kind of a track record, at least back in the 80s, of being right out in front of trends, this is completely backwards from that. So anyway, getting back to it. Ruth's saying, I got some new tires put on recently on the back and they jacked my cat up using the differential. Do you think that could have caused any damage? No. Not really. There's a lot of guys that do that. You just use a pad. The big issue, though, you need to watch out for is if they don't use a pad or a puck, and it's chipping or cracking the fins. If anybody's ever thrown a jack underneath my car, I would tell them immediately, do not lift it from the diff, because that is a bushed unit. That is something that is not a load-bearing entity. At least not in that respect. You can lift it from jacking points on the sides of the car, or you can lift it from the control arm mounts. I've seen guys do that before, but not really a good idea to lift from the diff, especially for an independent rear car. That's not good to do at all. Eric saying, hell yeah, I love Christine. Always loved the underhood shots of that motor. Really hope they didn't make a remake, or they don't make a remake. Yeah, that would just suck, man. God bless it. What would you do on a remake of Christine that was better? What would you do that would be better? I don't know. It's a perfect movie at a perfect point in time. It represents the time, the 80s, perfectly. It was really kind of a cool movie at the time because of, what was popular at that point. So, today, to try to do that movie, here's the thing too. What car would it be? I mean, would you still do a Christine type movie with a 58 Belvedere, which it wasn't a Fury because Furies were white and gold. But anyway, I get why they would use the name. What would you use? I don't know. Anyway, it's just kind of a weird thing. I don't know that a remake would even fly today. The car culture is nowhere near like it was back then. Working on there's just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to sit. Brando's asking, is the Porsche a supercar or a sports car? Man, it depends on who you ask, and I guess it would depend on the level of performance. What I consider like a GT3 RS, a supercar, but what I consider a base model 911 a supercar, probably not. I would consider it a sports car. Porsche falls into a weird category where pretty much any of their cars based on pricing and performance could be supercar-esque, but you don't get the flash and you don't get the impact and the theater that a Lamborghini would bring to the table. But like, which Lamborghini is a supercar? What about McLarens? Would you consider a 570 a sports car or a supercar versus a 720? See what I mean? Like there's levels to this, but I'm not really sure how to play it. And again, would you consider a Viper a supercar? Or would it be an American exotic? And that's kind of where the Vet falls into play. And the problem with the Vet is that the Vet is hard because it's got to come up a certain number of class levels. It used to be the working man's American sports car. Now it's kind of trying to become something else. And the problem with it is that when you look at the Corvette, the average selling price of the Corvette in 2021 was $82,000 and change. It used to be that the average guy or gal that wanted a Corvette that had a full-time job could afford one, or at least that they could work some extra hours, pick up another shift, pick up a couple of more accounts, or take over a couple of more accounts. If they're like in sales or a TM position, you kind of get the idea. There were ways to afford a Corvette. Now, with the average salary being what it is, and for the average cost of what Corvettes being what it is, pretty damn hard to square that. So now, that being said, I mean, those Corvettes from back then were pretty agricultural in their makeup, but and there's a lot more car in the new Corvette than there was back then. So, the type of transmission, the way that the car drives, the way that it handles, yeah, it's kind of supercar-y, but but the same layout is in a Cayman, right? So, I mean, would you consider the Cayman a supercar then too, or is it just a sports car? This can become very confusing. It's hard to really nail down. The way I like to explain that, though, this kind of works for a lot of things, but there's a difference between pornography and artwork. There's a lot of gray area in between, but believe me when I tell you, I know porn when I see it. It's kind of like you know what a supercar is when you see it. So it kind of works within those parameters. Hilt mode's in saying, "What up, B? What's up, Hilt?" I don't know what this guy thinks he knows something. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't though. I don't know. Here we are, Shiv Nation. Where they at? Oh, sucker's stuck in the wall over here. Got the bald guy with the shades and the flex. I like it. Riv saying, let's see them thumbs up. Dr. Div saying, yeah, 14 trucks and 15, 16 all have that weird that 2-1 bump. Shiv Nation's going to get in touch with Dr. Diff. Any dad saying, no way any Chevy is a supercar. Well, it makes a good point. Can Chevrolet have a supercar? Well, let me ask you this. If they built a Zora, right? The fabled Zora, you keep hearing about the Hemi Cuda, right? That ain't gonna happen. But if they built the Zora, which would be, let's say, a flat plane twin turbo option for that car, would that finally make the Vet a supercar because it's got turbos and X number of horsepowers? You almost, at this stage of the game, you have to kind of round up to the nearest a couple of hundred almost when you think about it with all the power that these things are making. Anyway, it's hard to say, but yeah, can Chevy make a supercar? Again, it brings up the idea, is the Viper a supercar? What about from Ford? Let's not forget about the GT. Is that a supercar? See, the funny thing about the GT is that it only has 650 horsepower. The 650 horsepower, you can basically fall over that. Before you'd say 500 horsepower was a big number. Well, everything is 500 horsepower practically now, even if you just breathe on it a little bit. Look at the 392, it's practically there already. So is the Ford GT a supercar? I don't know. I can tell you this, I can't afford one, so I'd say it's a super expensive car. But is it really a supercar? I guess it almost has to pass the stripper test. Like that's what when the stripper knows what kind of car it is, that means she knows what kind of bank it takes to pull up in one of those things. And believe me, they can pick a rental out from across the street. So that's, you've almost got to think of it in those terms. Like you've got to get kind of brash and brassy and a little bit crude when you go to call something a supercar, because if you think it's a supercar, that might fit in your head, but having a supercar isn't just for you. It's to make an appearance. It's to have your presence be announced by your mode of conveyance. So that's really what a supercar does. And so, by that manner, Ford GT, I don't know, kind of generic looking, but you show up in a Lambo, well, that's a supercar. You show up in a McLaren, yeah. You show up in an LFA, there's another one. LFA, front engine, V10, best sounding engine to ever leave any manufacturer ever, but it doesn't make a whole lot of power. Doesn't really look like a supercar. I mean, it kind of does in a way. Is the LFA a supercar? I mean, yeah, God, you'd have to say that it is. It sounds like a freaking old school Formula One car. So it would have to be a supercar. Interesting question. Again, you know it when you see it. Brando saying, I remember you had a white SRT Challenger. Yes, I did. Were the wheels the same as the Hellcat wheels, only a different color? Yes, they were. Chuck saying, a Hundo G for an EV? No thanks. That's my whole point. And that's the big point that I'll be making in that chat. How is it that something that is that simple, that expensive? Look, you can't tell me, just talking about the LFA, you cannot tell me that the same amount of engineering went into making a Tesla Model S that went into making the V10 that's in the LFA. I mean, save it. It's a speed controller with a few electric motors that are attached to it. You know what? I got something with a speed controller and a few electric motors attached to it, or at least one of them, and it's this contraption right here. So the only difference between this and an EV, quite honestly, if you really want to boil it down in terms of powertrain, is the size. Because you've got electric motor. Hang on. Electric motor, speed controller, battery pack. If you got electric steering, servos. Front and rear diffs. Viscous coupler. You get the idea. It's not that far removed from that. As a matter of fact, some of the earlier EVs you would think were just blown up RC cars. The point that I'm trying to make is that you can't tell me that there's that much technology in something that is so mundane in your own house. Everything in your house runs on an electric motor. Believe me when I tell you, the washing machine that you have doesn't run on an old kick, hit, and miss motor. All right, it's electric. Your air conditioner, again, electric. Electric motors, electricity. This is nothing new. And it pisses me to no end to have somebody say that this is technologically advanced. There's nothing technologically advanced about it. There's been electric cars since before there were internal combustion engines. People seem to forget that little fact. So anyway, I digress. Let me get back to you guys. But yeah, 100 G's for an EV is real difficult. That's just real difficult to swallow. Shift is hanging out with Riv. Let's see. Oh, Brando's saying, you said Challengers are in a different class than Mustangs and Camaros. I would argue that they are. If so, a Challenger races them. So if a Challenger races them and the Hellcat wins, was it a fair race because the other cars are sports cars, not muscle? It's a way of doing business, if you will. Think of it like this. I would line them up with the like of their kind. So if you're talking about a Hellcat, line it up against a ZL1 or a GT500. I've smoked them both. But line them up with the ones that make sense to line that car up against. NA for NA and boosted for boost. The thing is that the Hellcat is kind of tailor-made to be a muscle car. Power, the engine is more the focus than the overall balance of the vehicle. A sports car will have a better balance of power, handling, available grip, turn-in performance, weight, and everything else comes to be a factor with that. A muscle car, the weight is there as a byproduct of having heavy-duty parts to manage the power that's coming out of the thing that you are emphasizing the most, which is the engine. So no, first of all, a race is a race is a race. But the reality is that I would say that the Challenger is more akin to a true muscle car. Biggest engine, highest horsepower, highest torque of any of the group, but it's also the largest car of the group. It's more comfortable, and that's subjective, but let's be real, it's agreed to. The market would agree with that statement. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I would that's what I would say. I mean, again, a race is a race, but there are certain things that certain cars are more engineered to deliver. And in this case, you know, the Mopar stuff does really well on drag strips. Oh, Chuck's saying Dodge needs to lower the weight somehow, get a better power to weight ratio. You know, the funny, and again, thank you very much, Gary. I really appreciate that, brother. You're right, but the problem is that the platform's going away. I mean, what you got is what you got. And look, I could be completely wrong in this, but you could say that And you may very well be right that, okay, well, with the new platform being smaller, maybe the new GME T6 is really the way to go. A hybrid hot rod variant of the GME T6 could be your next new E-Muscle Hellcat. I can see them going down that route, especially if it is a smaller overall platform. Might be absolutely amazing to have that level of performance, maybe in a smaller car. The problem with that is that now you're starting to move away from the core demographic that Dodge is selling to, which is the demographic of American buyers, which, let's be honest, a lot of it is American market only, that want the bigger car, that want the muscle and big comfy feel that that car has to offer. Another thing is Americans are fucking big. So you might have, guys that are just bigger guys, taller guys. They just fit better in these things. And so let's look at it from that point of view. You could be seeing guys that are getting these cars because they are the most comfortable for them and they fit their needs much better. If you start making them smaller like the Mustang or the Camaro, man, look, there's a reason why the Challenger and Charger do so well. Is because it offers something completely different. It's not sporting, it's an American. By the way, this is kind of like an American and Australian thing unto its own, like the Falcon XBs and things like that from overseas, down under overseas, where those types of vehicles, that's something that's pretty cool. Well, or at least it was at one point for them. But Americans are still clamoring for that kind of stuff. So I would say it would be a tough play to make a smaller platform. And even if you started removing weight from the existing platform, which is what we were told they were looking into doing at one point, and that fruit basically rotted on the vine. I'm still trying to figure out, don't get me started again on Dodge, but I'm still trying to figure out what happened with that. Like, I thought we were going to get this revised LX platform and it was going to carry us into the next, I don't know, like 2030 or some stupid thing like that. And it was going to be a revised LX platform. Looking at some powertrain options, differences in maybe metallurgy, maybe looking at maybe an aluminum block 392, little things like that. But the reality is that we never got that. And the thing is that I don't know how they would lighten it up without significantly changing the actual physical dimensions. You got to remember, these things are still being built on an old school W211, W212, E-Class, S-Class architecture. And that's Mercedes, that's like jargon speak for old school E-Class and S-Class Mercedes-Benz sedans. So, at one point I thought, and I don't know the numerical designation, one of you guys will be able to tell me, but at one point I thought that they could license the C-Class platform. And if you think about it, you could have licensed the C-Class platform and made, in essence, a two-door Charger, utilizing the S-Class platform, call that two-door Charger, call that the CUDA, and then you would have a smaller, lighter weight platform that every Hemi will fit in. And I know this because my M156 that was in my E63 would be the same M156 in a C63. So that was something that, God bless, and it would fit in, so it would fit in perfectly with the lineage of the Charger and Challenger. I'm sorry, with the Challenger and CUDA from the 70s. The Challenger was a little bit bigger. Basically, it would compete with the Mercury Cougar, where the CUDA would be kind of more of a direct line of sight competitor to Mustang, but really more to the Camaro. Same car, just made a little bit smaller. That's what the C-Class would have done. See, I feel like there's so many opportunities that were just fumbled by Dodge throughout this whole thing. I'm sitting there thinking, if I was running Dodge, this would not look the same. It would be a much cleaner landscape. But Anyway, digress again. Oh, hang on a second. Himmy Dad, thank you, buddy, very much. Saying, on fire tonight, Professor B. Have a tenner for you. Thank you very much, brother. EVs will never rule this roost. Who is Dodge trying to impress with this EV shit? So for sure, right? So look, and again, this is going to be part of the rant that I'm going to end up teeing off on the next show, is that, but why be so late to the party? Like, this isn't fashionably late, all right? The guy with the good stuff has already left the party by the time you're showing up. Not fashionably late. That's like late because you don't want to be there, but you have to go, like you're obligated. Then don't market this thing the way that it's being marketed. Market it as, okay, we're going to build city cars. Kind of hard to get all, stiff and gurgly over freaking city cars, but we're going to make them because we have to. So I would freaking respect that level of apathy, right? There's a certain level of, I got that, if somebody comes to the table like that. But that's not what we're seeing at all. As a matter of fact, it's, look at what we're bringing to the table. And it's some cartoon of a freaking shadow doing peel outs on all four wheels. Ooh, it does four-wheel burnouts. Get the fuck out of here with that. That marketing was pretty adorable with the SRT Durango, but look, they're taking forever to bring this stuff to market, and I don't want to, kind of waste an entire segment on the next show, but it bears repeating, and it bears its own show, and it bears its own topic, because there's so many people that will not make the switch to EV because of a number of reasons. My wife is a big, nope when it comes to EVs. Her thing is, I don't care if you get one, but it ain't going to be something that, she's not going to be the one that falls in love with it, and it'd be like, all right, well then give me the Hellcat, because that'll be the last bastion of hope for any hot rod for internal combustion. So, it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, okay, well, it's not, EVs just ain't sexy like that. EVs don't rumble. You think chicks would hop on the back of an electric motorcycle, or were they going to hop on the back of a Harley? Be real. All right. So that's why, when you look at it, there's just no blood and guts. There's no want for anything with an EV. Flawless, right? Anyway, we get back to it, but thank you very much, Jimmy Dad. I really do appreciate that, buddy. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Oh, dang it. Hold on. I just blew past everybody. And again, thank you too, Gary, big time. Oh, Hilton saying he's excited about the Hurricane and a two-door Ram. If it happens, it's got to happen, dude. If they fuck that up, seriously, that is handing him the bread and the ham, and they would figure out a way to stack it on its end. I mean, to not put the T6 in a short wheelbase pickup truck is blasphemy to the horsepower enthusiasts that they are marketing to and selling their products to and creating this lifestyle around. I've already complained that they didn't put the Hellcat engine, or at least a 392, in the 1500. I'm not talking about the TRX. I'm talking about like a Warlock, Little Red Express type of a endeavor, that kind of effort. Didn't even see that. Now, what you're seeing is a potential for a 3-liter, 400 horsepower, 450, 475 pound-foot of torque, inline six that you can hot rod, get that thing up to 500 or 600 horsepower and about 600 pound-feet of torque. That would make for a really fun truck to play around in. I mean, come on, man. That'd be a 12-second truck easy on the street. Let's see. Roy's checking in, saying, great. Ruth saying, when I finally got my 309 diff and my cat, I thought I would feel so much livelier, but it did not, so I use a pedal commander. That's right. To make up for that, do you think that's cheating? That's a cheating way of doing so? No, hell, I've been saying that if you put a 309 in your cat, you're going to have a pedal commander at least. That, in fact, that was my default combination for everybody that was thinking about doing that, but was worried about potential issues getting flagged for P1400 code, which is the death nail, if you will, for your warranty. Aftermarket tune code is what it is. So you put a 309 diff in the car, leave everything else alone, maybe put a 196 degree thermostat in it so you don't throw a code, and then put a pedal commander in it so that you can load the thing up. Because what you're missing out on with the 309 that you had with the 262 is the load. Load creates cylinder pressure. And when you have a positive displacement supercharger, that's immediate boost response. So you have to get into the throttle more to build the boost response back. That's why you get a pedal commander. Ramp up the driver command torque, which is just a fart smelling way of saying make the gas pedal more sensitive. And voila, you get everything back. And now you tip that thing into, about 50% of throttle throw, and the car's really snapping you around. Well, that makes life a whole lot of fun. So no, it's a preferred method actually for guys that want to liven their car up a little bit, but don't want to tune their car. That's what I would suggest every time. Stuart's saying currently in auto tech school, Ford already has an EV course as part of their program. Dodge, crickets. Exactly. My point. My man just laid it out there for you. Stuart just told you that he's in school and he's hearing nothing from Dodge. Ford's already way out in front of him teaching guys how to work on their products. And guess what? They'll go to work for Ford because they want to be in a position where they can work on modern EVs. If you don't have an EV program, nobody's going to be able to work in your service department. The idea here is that as EVs are being built, techs, mechs are going to need to get to those dealerships so that they can work on them. Dodge is, like Stuart said, crickets. There's nothing out there. My man's going to school. That's going to be his profession. He's going to now have to, circle back around and try to figure out stuff from Dodge? Come on, man. That's not cool. So, yeah, exactly. But thank you for sharing that, buddy. I appreciate it. Let's see. Shift is hanging out with Doc. Let's see. John's saying 392 Hemi instead of the 318 Poly. Negative on that one. If you're talking about the engine that was in Christine. 392 Hemi at that point in time would have been a DeSoto only option, I believe. Stuart's hanging out with Shift. Oh, Bernie's saying, quick thoughts on throwing a 6.4 cam and a 5.7, worth it, or a 270? The thing I don't like about the 6.4 cam and a 5.7 is just how wide the lobe separation angle is. It is a better cam than the stock 5.7 cam. However, man, if you're pulling the thing apart anyway, why would you put a cam in it that's not really a performance cam? Not to say that the cam that's in the 392 is not a performance cam, but it's not really a street performance cam. It's got a real wide lobe separation angle, which has a nasty habit of chopping mid-range torque in favor of being able to carry power on the big end. Power after, say, 5,800 RPM when that short runner valve shuts. If you're going to tear the thing apart, don't get a 270. Just don't. The older comp grinds are not what you want in that car. Depending on drivability that you're looking for and everything else, there are cams that are significantly better. And, a cam that looks, I'll put it to you like this. A Dr. Differential has a cam that is basically the 392 stock cam, but with a tighter lobe separation angle. It's called the Contender. It's like 218, 224, which is kind of the specs of it's just a slightly bigger cam than the stock, the 392 cam. It just has a tighter lobe separation angle. It doesn't offer a whole lot of chop. It's not a huge power improvement over the stock cam, but it's an improvement, and it's very streetable. It runs good. But if you're going to be putting a cam in the car, spend the money. I mean, you're spending the money already. And the thing is that I've heard, this is the goofy thing, I've heard of guys saying, oh, I picked up so much power with this cam, but they did a whole lot of other modifications to the car when the cam was put in it. It was like the cam and long tubes. Well, you take the damn log manifolds off the thing, and yeah, it's going to pick up power. It's because you took a piece of shit off the side of both sides of the car. Plus it's tuned and everything else. So it's like, it wouldn't contribute as much to that cam as you might think. But look, if you're planning on getting a cam for your car, just don't go any wider than 114 degrees on the lobe separation angle. Let the thing have at least a chunk of mid-range that'll make the car a lot more fun to drive. You'll have a good sound to it, and just a proper cam for the application. In other words, a proper performance cam for your application. And cams that I put together for 5.7s are typically intake center line of 108. 220 on the intake side, 226, 228 on the exhaust, always long tubes. Lift, it really doesn't matter. It just an amount of lift over 570, 580 is going to be fine. And really, like I say, that's a good tune, and the thing's going to rip, put a 6.4 intake on it with the Team Z automotive controller, and it'll make, on a eddy current dyno, seeing somewhere around 390 to the wheels. 380 would be kind of low, I think, for that combination. Seen as much as 400 to the wheels on an eddy current combination. So, and that's with a cam that looks a lot like my Sniper grind, which would be very similar to the Joker grind that's sold through Doc Differential and Speed. So, that combination, again, just as simple and as clean as they come, with no work done to that 6.4 intake, just with the controller, and you're good to go. You're set. So with the right valve springs and push rods, that combination's a pretty stout one, and it'll last you a long time. Speed Maniac, brother, what is up? Appreciate that, buddy. Saying we need an automobile manufacturer for Americans by Americans. Guess I'll be seeing you at HMP, brother. Ow! Yep. Well, give me a holler. I mean, we're looking at, the end of 23 might be the end of HRP. So, and HMP's been growing on me a little bit. I've had a lot of fun out there, and it's, for me, I like going to HMP. I'll make 2 or 3 passes, and then I like watching the races there. It's a lot of fun. It can get a little bit rowdy, which doesn't hurt my feelings at all. In fact, I kind of like it. I especially love it when people are throwing money around, because I like to try to win people money. So there's that. But I've had a lot of fun out there. It's just that it's just not quarter mile, man. And but heck, I tell you what, I enjoy all kinds of racing, and they do a slick and radial only night. I think it's on Sundays. So when I go, I usually go on those nights, and we'll hang out. The concession stands the shit at that place, man. Their burgers and dogs are fucking awesome. So devil horns on that. But thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Oh, speaking of HRP, trying to find out what the latest is with that. The new schedule is up, and they've got now dates. If you're wondering what's going on with that track, they do have dates going out through the end of this year. I think it's through the end of this year, and then maybe some dates coming into 23. That's about the best I can give you on that. But thank you very much, Speed. I appreciate that, brother. Um, oh, Carl's asking about that throttle hang. Is it possible to get rid of that feature? Hey, yeah, it is. Hey, Doc Diff, I haven't ever messed with that, or at least, have I messed with that? I don't remember messing with it. He would be one to answer the how. It has to do with airflow, throttle body, and throttle body followers, but I can't remember the exact delay. There's like a delay where you use it to chop throttle, and I can't remember the exact parameter that you adjust, but I know that you can adjust it. I just can't remember the way that you do it, because everything I've been messing with of late has all been automatic stuff. So, in fact, it has been messing with pedal followers, although I haven't seen any improvement necessarily in performance by messing with that, which is a whole other, like talking about tuning. So whenever you're messing with, so the throttle blade, we're talking about driver command torque earlier. The throttle blade, okay, like pretend like these two are facing each other. Okay, this is your gas pedal. This is your actual throttle blade. In your head, and the way that the computer is designed through driver command torque, which is again just gas pedal settings. For your head, it's designed to make you think that it works like this. That's the way it's designed to make you think. The reality is nothing of the sort. And when you take the car to the drag strip, it can actually perform like this. Now remember, this is your gas pedal and this is your throttle blade. It can actually work like this. Or it can work like this. Okay, where you're partial throttle, but it goes to wide open throttle. Lots of weird stuff go on with throttling. So anyway, I've played around with that a lot, but on another page, so to speak, looking at pedal followers and their direct effect on actual manifold pressure. And oddly enough, you might be or might not be surprised to find out that based on RPM, slapping the throttle blade open like this did literally nothing to the boost curve. And that's even with slamming the bypass shut like that, basically forcing it into a no boost scenario. None of it made any difference on the actual boost curve. So part of that is you would think might be something to do with launch control or something. Believe me, taint. So I tried. In fact, I had mine to where they were literally flopping open. The throttle was opening up literally at the same rate that the throttle was slamming to the floor, and made literally hardly any difference at all. Mike saying, can confirm. Oh, Mike's checking in 6'5" and 3 bills. You're not seeing my double wide ass slipping into a Versa anytime soon. I hear you, brother. Challenger fits perfect and hopefully better once I drop the extra burgers. Man, I mean, we've got a fella in the crew that's with you in terms of size. And I mean, he's rocking a Challenger, and I believe me when I tell you, he ain't fitting in a vet. I mean, it just ain't gonna happen. So y'all, offensive tackle size gentlemen, need something that can carry you, man. Seriously. And that's really where these Mopars do their best work, man. They just big and comfortable. Brando's saying some people bought the Demon for 89 grand when it came out. It is the most powerful trim and it's numbered, which is rare. So why are the brand new Red Eyes over 90,000? Well, very few of the Demons actually sold for that number, but the new Red Eyes are that expensive because they're basically Demons without the springs and some of the electronics, the high output or high octane feature. That's it. I think actually though in 21 you could get the high octane feature. Anyway, there is also a little thing with the chip shortage right now and everything else that's driving prices up. But yeah, the Demon was a special case scenario. And right now, the Demon is selling for about 130, which at least it was, which was its kind of a trade value. You know, in other words, people were just buying them and selling them for around 120 to 130. So, you know, and that's on the used market. Mike saying marketing, there is that. Crypto's laughing. Him and Dad saying Dodge is being really dumb. They built their rep on muscle power and now selling out to EV that no one who actually wants them kids can afford. That's boy howdy. Okay. And that's so I keep asking why. Why is the EV so expensive? There's nothing about that powertrain that is exotic. There's nothing magical about fucking DC motors and lithium batteries. There's nothing out of an alien spaceship about electric speed controllers, which basically are rheostat. There's nothing new about this stuff. Nothing. Literally nothing is new about the technology. You say, well, battery technology, easy there, sports fan. It's a battery. All right. And you don't have to have the tippy tip top of the tip top battery to put in an EV to get people from point A to point B. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you can try to sell it on battery technology, but Samsung or Apple or whatever cell phone manufacturer that's out there that's making a bunch of batteries, they know how to make a battery last for a long time. Talk to them, right? Anyway, you get the idea. Call Duracell, for crying out loud. Ever ready. They know how to make a battery. You can get the things to work. The problem is that you can't, look, hold up. First of all, it's electric. If you have a hair dryer and it quits working, what do you do with it? You throw it away. If you have a leaf blower that's electric, runs on batteries, and it quits working, it flakes out, burns up, or whatever, you throw the whole contraption away typically. It's so cheap and so not exotic that it is fucking disposable. But yet you're going to charge a hundo thowie for a freaking potentially disposable contraption. You got to be understanding this from a consumer's point of view. Young people that would normally gravitate to this cool new technology, this new powertrain, you're alienating them from this. Remember your history. Let me put you in the Wayback Machine. It's 1968. Dodge has this cool car. Plymouth has this cool car, the Super Bee and the Roadrunner. And any kid working at a gas station can go down to his Plymouth dealership and get a freaking Roadrunner. All right? It's a hot rod. It's got a 383. Does burnouts for distance. Where's the EV equivalent to that? That's what I want to know. Dodge, are you listening? Is that what we're waiting on? Like, is that what we're waiting on? Because if that's what we're waiting on, man, I ain't with that. But here's the thing. You got to give me something, man. You got to give me just a taste, man. Just give me a little sample. I don't need the whole bag. Just give me a little look. Give me a little taste. Give me a little something to whet my interest. Because right now, everybody else is running amok with their EV offerings. Dodge, you're going to sit around and just kind of, ooh, this is going to be neat. This is going to be cool. Hundreds and lots of horsepowers. We ain't looking for that, Holmes. We ain't looking for that at all. I'm looking for my Scat Pack EV. I'm looking for my 550 horsepower with 600 pound-feet of torque. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my 1080 EV that is like $30,000. I don't need $100,000. That ain't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 10s for 30. All right? That's what I want. I want 1080 for 38. I want 1080 for 28. How about that? Make it really right. Talking about freaking technology. You must think we're all stupid. Coming out here selling this stuff to everybody, and you're going to sell it, and you're going to put it all like, ooh, what's coming next? What could Dodge have to offer? Well, they've already fucked up the direct connection release. They're taking and they're slow playing their hand, which is about as annoying as it gets in this endeavor. Meanwhile, everybody else is going all in and partying in the meantime. Check out the Abbeys. Check out the new Rados. Check out all the new Lightning that's coming. This is exciting shit. Ribbon's out there just housing fools. Just taking everybody's lunch money when it comes to performance pickup trucks. And it's got that cool middle thing, whatever that thing does. Here's Dodge. Gonna be like that dumb, weird kid. Hey, can I play? It better be good. That's all I'm saying. And it better be good on a level that pulls at the heartstrings of the enthusiast, to the blue-collar guys, to the guys and girls that are out there hustling and they're young and they want something cool, fast, and frisky. Ain't nobody got that. And God, I can just tell you right now, Dodge is going to fitter this one away the same way they screwed up everything else. It's just... Anyway, getting back to you guys. Roy, thank you very much, buddy. Saying, can you believe the first Demon had a straight 6-cylinder in it? That's right, it did. My aunt had one. Looked like kind of a Duster, which I wish they would make again. 340 Duster, maybe supercharged. That would be really cool. Thank you for the super chat too, brother. So, yeah, they did. You could option one with a slant 6, 225, I think is what you could get. Maybe even a 190. I don't know. Anyway, I did get a 225 in it. So, interesting thing about that car, that car that basically the Mopar Nova, if you will, awesome car. And what kind of sucks about it is, wouldn't it be neat to bring back something like that? Move away from the movie star, move away from the Challenger a little bit and get something that's a little bit more, maybe that has a little bit more street cred, if you will. The new Demon, the Duster, for example, something like that. That would be pretty sick for something coming up. Put the new T6 in it. Now, how cool would that be? I get tired of the CUDA. The CUDA. Look, everything's freaking named after a fish or a horse or some kind of critter. How cool would that be? The new Duster. Just something that's if you're going to, look, here's the thing. I don't have the catalogs here, but if you're going to sell nostalgia, remember that the old direct connection catalogs, I think, were like, it was obligatory to at least have half a dozen Dusters doing wheelies in that catalog. Something like that. I'm continuously reminded that I'm reminded of how Dodge has marketed their products and marketed themselves over the years. It's been very impressive. They've done a very good job in a lot of ways. But in my opinion, the way that they're rolling this thing out with whatever may be the new platform. Because look, it's 2022. They're talking about 2024. The party's over for the LX, LC, L whatever platforms. Start getting me hyped now. We're going to wait to show you something. Hey, the longer you wait to show me something, the more I might be thinking about buying something else from somebody else. Oh, we're going to wait. Just trust us. It's going to be great. Yeah. Heard that before. Remember when I did that video, like, is the new whatever platform that they're going to roll out, is that their version of the Edsel? Remember that? Because it was one of those things where you go, well, could it be that bad? Like, could they release something that is just kind of like a fart in a sauna. That's how I'm envisioning this playing out. And unfortunately, as unappetizing as that may sound, they're kind of on the same path. They're running with the same playbook that Ford ran with the Edsel, only to bring it out into the world, and it looked like a Fairlane that'd been in a wreck. I'm not putting it out into the universe because I want this. I'm putting it out into the universe as a cautionary statement. This has already been done. This mistake has already been made magnificently by another manufacturer. Please don't repeat it. This is playing out letter for letter. The timeline, identical. The hype, identical. All of the buzzwords are identical, coming from Dodge, that was coming from Ford, that was basically what was putting into the creation of the Edsel. It even boils down to the naming of the thing. This is so many weird. This is like the Lincoln Kennedy thing. There's so many weird. Is it coincidences? Similarities? What's the right word that I'm looking for? Just like with the Edsel, nobody knows what they're calling this thing. Edsel just was like a last minute, here you go, here's a name that was thrown out there. The E-car. Ooh. What? No. And what's it going to look like? It's, the styling. It's got the frat song right in front. Just like the Edsel had that horse collar, other parts looking thing that they had going for it. It's a vertical grill, but it just didn't look right. Like, it looked like somebody walked into a freaking sliding glass door. And I'm afraid that's what this car is going to end up looking like. I'm afraid that we're going to be faced with the Mopar equivalent of the Edsel when they roll this thing out. And all they're going to have to brag about is, it's fast. Meanwhile, every other EV is out there smoking every other internal combustion engine contraption. It better be super fast and super sexy and super awesome, because if not, the competition is going to absolutely mop the floor with the Dodge offerings. Anyway, I don't want to burn too much of that topic because I will be hammering that possibly on Saturday. Good point, though, Himmy Dad. Eric saying, I always hope to see a new version of the Little Red Express. Me and you both, and I was all, crying piss tears whenever the TRX was released. And I was thinking, this is the opportunity for the Warlock. I always liked the Little Red Express, but I was always more of a Warlock guy. And, I thought, God, this is like literally, like, you couldn't script this any better. The history is there. You talk about a company that markets so heavily on history. You could have literally had the Warlock right there. It's super easy to make. Hellcat engine, put it in a short wheelbase Ram, 392 gears. Yeah. Thank you. I'll have one, please. Black with gold trim. Yeah. This writes itself. But yet here we are, not able to have that. You got the TRX. The TRX is a great truck, don't get me wrong. It's very capable and exciting and all of that. It's a luxurious thing to sit in. If you haven't sat in one of these new Dodges, it's amazing. Ram trucks, I should say. But for a company that hangs their hat so heavily on tradition, or trends themselves and markets themselves so heavily towards tradition, that's just an opportunity lost as far as I'm concerned. You couldn't even put the 392 in the thing. Like, that's all you'd have had to really do. I'm not even asking for a Hellcat variant. Just put the 392 in the thing. Anyway, guess you got to build your own. Chuck saying, pulled up to a stoplight the other day. The lady in the car next to me started running her mouth because my Challenger was too loud. Must have been a Biden supporter, probably. Hopefully laid into it when you're leaving. The car is too loud. That's a crotch that hadn't seen a cock in years. Let's see. Brando's saying, asking, what does it mean about horsepower to the crank versus to the wheels? Very good question. Does it mean that horsepower to the crank is what the motor has maxed out? Well, sort of. So the way that horsepower is rated is at the flywheel. That is with the engine as its own entity without a transmission behind it or any of the drag that comes from spinning the internal parts of a transmission, plus a prop shaft, drive shaft, plus the differential, plus the axles, plus the weight of the wheels themselves. It is the power plant's specific output with all nowadays with SAE ratings, with full intake, with fans if applicable, with the factory manifolds and full factory exhaust. That is an SAE J1307 setting, or standard, I should say, for how that engine is run. Horsepower to the rear wheels takes into account the driveline losses of the transmission, the weight of the drive shaft, the losses through a differential, and the losses through the weight of spinning the wheels themselves, the actual weight of the wheels. All of that comes to play to put a power number to the rear wheels. To give you an example, a 375 horsepower Challenger will put to the ground about the same horsepower that a 400 horsepower Ram pickup will put to the ground. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the truck has a bigger, beefier drive shaft, bigger, beefier rear end in some cases, but significantly heavier wheel and tire combinations. And so the power transmitted to the rear wheels may be the same, even though the engines may make a little bit more power, like the truck makes a little bit more power than the car engine does. So that's why you may see that. But no, the way that the engines are rated is at the flywheel. Most guys are familiar with horsepower to the rear wheels because that's how you measure the horsepower when you're tuning the car on a dyno. And even then, that you get the dynos read horsepower differently. Even on the same day, the same dyno can read differently because of atmospheric condition changes and all of that. So there's a lot that goes into that. But the short answer to your question is that's the answer. Randy's saying, I think you hit it exactly. The SRT team was having fun stuffing a supercharger into everything and building cars that rule the street. Then they get told the party is over. Yeah, it kind of blows. But you're right. And again, Speed Maniac, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Hilton Mode's asking, what kind of gearing do turbo engines like? It depends on the turbo engine. But you'll hear guys say that they like a lot of load. Once you get the thing rolling, they like static load a lot. Turbos don't like to be wink, wink, wink revved like an NA car would. They typically like to have wide open throttle and lots of load for as long as you can load it. And that helps to build cylinder pressure, which helps to build more boost, or at least hang the thing on the spring. So it all depends on the combination, but in general, a turbo car is going to like to have a gear that will give it a little bit more load. So like, say, for example, a 323 instead of a 410 rear gear set. Oh, Doc's saying buy a bigger cam, long tubes, cam kit, and throw in a joker in. It makes great power with great street manners and an automatic. And can be kept quiet with some MagnaFlows. Be a nice setup. It's a real nice setup. But also use stand keys. I recommend stand keys on every single cam kit. Well, with every cam job, it has to have stand key tie bars and collars. Randy's saying, Chuck, I have a sticker on my helmet that says, if it's loud, then you're too old for sure. Hey, man, loud pipes save lives. Stuart saying, I'd see the remake of Christine if Chris Rock were the driver. Christine's a pretty cool car. Doc saying, if it's a manual car, you can set stop speed to 127.5 and it will cut that crap. That is true. But I haven't ever done that. Shiv saying, can I swap my stock 392 a manifold actuator to a new manifold, planning on buying an extra so I don't have to garage my daily while I port? Yeah, of course you can. I mean, you can, the actuator isn't really the issue. It's the, let me think about this. It's, you can swap the actuators, and the car actually does a relearn every time you fire the car up. The only time you'll run into an issue is if that range is out of some range, and I forget the code. It's like a 21. Don't get me to lying. Anyway, I've only run into one car that got really pissed off about different manifolds and different actuators. It was a complete mess, and that was Quick Brick's car. And the only thing that made that car happy was running my personal intake manifold on that car. And his car was a 2015 though, and I don't know, maybe 2015s were just edgy when it came to that. I don't know. Oh, Doc Gibbs saying engine idle general. Randy's saying your dang photo. Oh, I didn't even notice it. That it had acted weird. Doc Gibbs saying auto not as easy. Jebediah saying, just give me a Ram 1500 with a 392, which I'm 100% on board with. And again, Roy, thank you very much. John saying, we need a junior muscle car. Can you even have a junior muscle car? Like, is that even a possibility? Anyway, be a fun thought experiment. But yeah, something smaller might be nice. Or at least lighter. Roy saying, talking about a 71 Demon. Yep. Crypto saying, I see Ryman pickups daily where I live and they haul ass. Yeah, they do. Greg saying, you talk about a new Duster. Yeah, hell, that'd be awesome. John saying, yeah, make it cheap, make it haul. Greg saying the Dart was a disaster in marketing. Dodge can screw up old names. That is the truth. Roy saying, I wish they made the new Duster with a V8. Yeah, you and me both. X is saying, what up, Professor B? I got to do that one again. Got the bald guy with the shades, and he's got the cadence right with the arm and the bald guy with the shades. I like it. Thank you, buddy. Jebediah saying mods. Let's see. Bear with me. Chuck saying, report this snapper, please. X is already in with the report. Good job, my friend. Yeah, I cannot, whenever Christian's in on it too. Yeah, I can't, whenever that comes up, it's up to the mods because I cannot control that, guys. Actually, if Doc Diff is on here, he can actually pull those off. I think he's one of the mods that are on board right now. Christian's asking, hey, D, what do you have to say about the 07 to 09 GT500s? You can find them now low miles under 35 grand. I was thinking about getting one. Man, Christian, I got to tell you something, dude. To this day, I don't understand why I don't own one of those cars. Whether it's the 500 horse, the 550 horse, to me, it just doesn't matter. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for those cars. I, back in the day, had a lot of fun with those things. And, you know, it's hard to believe that we're so far down the line in terms of timeline, because to me, it just seems like it was just yesterday. You know, a mild pulley combination and a tune on those things, and you've got yourself a really fun car to play with on the street. I would never really say that, I wouldn't ever say that I would run one at the drag strip. Taking that car to the drag, the problem is numbers ruin GT500s. That car on the street, it belongs on the street. That car needs to be wearing a gold metal chain around its neck, big ass medallion, white ass button down shirt with the big, just big ass hair. That's GT500 for me, man. That's the dude you want to hang out with, because that car knows how to partay, brother. So yeah, if you can find one, if you can find a clean one, man, that's pretty sweet. I would love to get my hands on one. Let's see. Oh, Christian's in. Yeah. The smoke saying, does it bother you that gas will be $50 a gallon by 2030? Not really. It won't be $50 a gallon, but it won't be cheap. Because you got to remember, look, dude, it can't be that high. You've got people that have to go to work, and those people live in apartment complexes. You got people that have to go to work, and they live in regular neighborhoods where maybe they don't have garages. EVs ain't going to take over the planet anytime soon. As a matter of fact, stuff's going to be running on gasoline or some petroleum product for a long time. Airplanes, ships, first responder vehicles. You need 100% reliability with these things. And in some cases, you just don't get that with the electric stuff. Plus, you need convenience. You think a single mom can afford $50 or an EV for that matter? Probably not. Christian saying, also on the GT500s, is there a specific mod list you suggest for a fun street build? I'd have to go back and look at the pulley sizes. Throw another couple of pounds of boost at it. Maybe even not long tube headers. I probably wouldn't even bother with them. I had long tubes on my Lightning, and I don't know that it helped it a lot. But a tune, a couple of extra pounds of boost, and a Hurst shifter, an MGW shifter, and maybe change the altitude a little bit on it with a set of Eibach springs. And a cold air just so you can hear the blower scream. That's really all you need for that car. And guys, it's funny you should mention that car too. If I ran across an 07, 08, or an 09 GT500, black on black, I would almost have to buy that car. There's just something about that car, the early cars, that I really like a lot. I like the tombstone look on the back of the car, that real flat slab look on the back. Don't get me wrong, I like the later cars too, like the 10 and up cars. The rear end it's a little bit more refined looking, but man, there's just something about those cars I've always liked, and I always will like them. Greg said, oh, corporate auto companies suck. Look at GM. People scream for a new Trans Am. Some other company took late Camaros and put a front hood scoop on them. Yeah, crickets from GM. They're only going to build what sells. And I mean, look at the Camaro. A lot of folks were pissed off when, back in, 2002, when the original Camaro went away. And a lot of their enthusiasts were really vocal about that vehicle not being around anymore. And, so here comes the 5th gen. Well, then the 6th gen comes out, it's purported to be lighter. A lot of people got really worked up about it. Wow, this is going to go head to head with a Mustang. Then it did okay for a while, but look what the Chevelle, look what the Challenger did to that car. And the reason why Chevelle popped into my head is because a lot of people were on Chevrolet about bringing out a Chevelle type car. We had the Mustang, right? Iconic, obviously. You think Ford Mustang immediately. You think Dodge. I mean, right off the top of your head, you're going to say Challenger as far as iconic cars. Yeah, people, I mean, they just don't know Roadrunner, but they know what the Challenger looks like. It's been put out there, so to speak. It's flashy, it's sexy. Kowalski rolled up on a naked chick riding a Honda, rolling in a white Challenger. It's got some cred. You talk Chevrolet, Camaro maybe, but the thing is from guys from that era are going to say Chevelle. And if you're already coming out with cars like the Challenger and cars like the Mustang, the Camaro had no retro style, so in a lot of ways it might have been better for a youth market, but the youth market didn't clamor for it. I mean, you've got some guys that did, but the reality is that, you got Challengers outselling Camaros by a fairly healthy margin even before the chip shortage. That is a big deal. That's a big thing. So, I was always bummed out that Chevy didn't fall in line or follow suit rather, not fall in line, but follow suit with a car like that. So, Sambo's asking, what's the fastest safe shift speed on a stock Nag 1? It depends on the power level. I would say if you're making 400 horsepower to the rear wheels, somewhere around 63, 6,500 shouldn't be a problem for that transmission. Oh, Randy's saying he's seen somebody talk today about a Ram 1200. I don't know anything. I don't know. That's the first I've heard of it. Smaller Ram, about the size of a Ranger. That would be like the old Dakota pickup trucks, I guess. Or was it, the Dodge, Dakota, right? Or am I losing my mind here? Which would be sweet. Medeiros asking, for a big single turbo setup, do you recommend an anti-lag or a misfiring system? Depends on what you're doing with it. You'll see those a lot on BMWs, and it's, you'll see it where and some cars do it naturally, where you actually put into the tune more or less a backfire popping, and what that's doing is it's firing injectors in an effort to have exhaust to keep the turbo spinning, if that's what you're asking about. But no, it's nobody runs that. It's a neat tchotchke. It's kind of a gimmicky thing, but no, I don't think that you need it at all, frankly. I mean, for what you would be doing with a single turbo, especially a big single turbo, there's no way, you can't really put anything into the car that's going to be able to make that work. That really only works for small turbos that you want to spool up real quick anyway. For a big turbo, those types of pops and things like that just aren't going to be there. Your best anti-lag for a big turbo is a 50 shot of nitrous. Put it on a window switch. Set your tune up fairly rich under partial tune and partial throttle, or rather not partial throttle, wide open throttle, low boost levels. Hit it with a freaking 50 shot, and there's your anti-lag, and that works way better than some of the rest of that stuff will. Chuck's saying the Challenger will rumble in my driveway regardless of gas prices. Unlike some people, I don't base my auto purchase on current gas prices, but to each their own. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, the thing is that gas is cheap. Guys, I know that it's expensive, relatively speaking, more so than what it was. But look, this fuel that has been drug out of the ground, refined, blended, everything that they do to get a gallon of gas it just blows my mind that it's $4. Granted, there's a lot of oil down there, but the thing is that, yeah, it's expensive. It is expensive. It takes up a big chunk of people's budgets. I mean, I know, trust me, but it's not the gas prices that I'm worried about. It's, when it comes to these EVs, it's, you're not going to drive me into the arms of an EV by raising gas prices. just wait until, they start throwing a whole lot of heavy taxes on gasoline because of the EVs. Or you start seeing your electricity bill go up because they can't get road infrastructure money out of gasoline the way that they used to. So now you get to pay for road infrastructure with your electricity usage. How would that work? Think about that for a minute. That'll drive you crazy. Oh, John saying, speaking of early cars, the OG 08 to 10 SRT8 61 Challengers were the best. They're nice. They sure have a pretty engine. Christian saying, hey, nice. I want a black on black GT500 too. That's the one, man. Yep. Yeah, man. Something about the 07, 09 body lines that work for me. It's also the car that got me into cars 10 years old. At 10 years old, appreciate the suggestions. Absolutely. Listen, there are so I've got a thing for like 07, 08, and 09. That's just I don't know why, but I've always liked the just that slab back, the tombstone back of that car. I've always liked that. And other guys, well, there are other ones that make more power, do this, that. Look, dude, it's a pulley away from making a ton of power. It's a tune away from making a ton of power. It's not why you buy one of those cars. There's so much more to that car, and it actually, that car is arguably one of the most important cars to have ever been made. From a historical standpoint, I mean, look at the Hellcat. And people say, well, if it weren't for the GT500, you wouldn't have a Hellcat. No, that's not true. If it weren't for the Lightning, you wouldn't have a Hellcat. You gotta remember, the Lightning was the original supercharged hot rod. But when you look at it, and people forget that the Lightning came out in 99. Termies came out in 03. Terminator Cobra. Anyway, where I'm going with this is when the 07, 08, 09, that body style, when that car was introduced, when the GT500 was introduced, it had no competition. There was no competition. What competition was there? You didn't have a Challenger. That would come out in 08. The 07 GT500 stood alone in a world with no Camaro, in a world with no Challenger, nothing coming from Dodge, nothing existed from Dodge. You only had Ford, and you only had the GT500 doing what the GT500 did. The GT500 brought 500 horsepower to the table. And yeah, the Termies made realistically 425. And I will stand by that number of at least 400. Rated at 385, but my ass. But the GT500 was a bigger car, kind of like the Challenger. Had a bigger engine, kind of like Challenger. Had 500 horsepower. Big block torque, though. 500 horsepower was a cherry number. That 500 horsepower, you don't understand the like what nerves that tickles a certain age group of people. And you're talking 15 years ago. That's a lot of boomers in their 40s, and they're looking at that going, or 50s, and they're looking at that going, dude, that's pretty badass. That's 500 horsepower. That's Hemis didn't, that's like Hemi. Oh my God, they're getting to that again, but you get what I'm saying. 500 horsepower was the number. That 500 horsepower was the big number, right? Like if an engine made 500 pound-feet of torque, it can make 470. That's one thing, but 500, that's a lot. The Cadillac had a 500 cubic inch engine, made no horsepower, but it spun to like 3,000 RPM, but it's 500. Since 500 was like a pivot number for these guys, from being somewhat interesting to being extraordinary. And the GT500 brought that to the masses, and nothing would even come close to that until the ZL1 was released. So, you start to look at it from that point of view, and it's like, damn, that's pretty kick-ass. Where do I get one? It's historically pretty significant to a lot of guys for a lot of reasons. And it's also because it was manual only. You got to remember, this is coming from a point in time where automatics were just really crappy. And So, everybody at the drag strip had manual transmission cars. 500 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque, whatever it was, manual transmission, 355 or 370 gears, didn't matter what it was. They were just beasts on the street. And, for a lot of guys, it was the return of the big block. For a lot of people, that's how their brain registered when they saw the GT500 was, a lot of numbers kind of came together and gelled. GT500 finally has 500 horsepower. It's not just a name anymore. It means something. 500 whatever horsepower, 500 whatever pound-feet of torque. Now we're talking big block torque numbers. It's kind of a bigger car. It looks like an old Mustang. It's a manual transmission, but it's got all of the trappings and all of the traits of what you would have hoped that a big block Mustang would have been, which, by the way, it never was when you had big block Mustangs. It delivered on the promises from the late 60s and early 70s. That's what the 07 Shelby GT500 did. So it delivered on all these promises, and a lot of numbers came together and worked really well at the time. Now, sure, progress does what it does best and moves forward. It progresses. But because the GT500 had the marks of everything that anybody could have ever wanted the older car to be, but now so much better for this new, now then modern car in 07, with nobody else competing with them. Ford did not have to make that car. There was nothing for them to compete with that car. It was simply a passion project, and that's why that car is so special to me. Now, with that car, you usher in the era, in some ways, of the big horsepower. From there you had the ZL1, and then from there you had the Hellcat, which was the first mass-produced 10-second car. And then from there, you get everything else that came of it. But yeah, definitely a cool car, and you can tell that, I'm pretty passionate about those things. Oh, Christian's saying, same about the Camaro. GM didn't give it the attention that it needed. Sorry, I meant shift time on a NAG 1. I don't know, probably 400 milliseconds. Oh, Bruce is checking out. Got to work in the AM. God bless every one of y'all. God bless you, Bruce. Thanks for hanging out, brother. Kel's saying, I got a 21 Challenger Scatty with a 6-speed, been looking into wheels and tires. Really like chrome Demon Reps with the Go Mango paint, thinking of 20 by 9.5, the 12s, and the 20 by 10.5 22s. I think they're actually 25 offset for those. But yeah, I've got Demon Reps on mine. That's my street setup, is the replica wheels. Replica being the company, Demon Reps. Greg saying, I had a 2000 Dakota RT with a 5.9 and 390 limited slip. It embarrassed many cars, a blasted drive, total sleeper. That's what we're talking about. Kel said, have you ran a similar setup and did you experience any rubbing? The answers to me have been 50-50. Oh, yeah, so the issue that I ran into was with the Nitto Tri-5R2s, where the 305-35 Nitto Tri-5 is actually a small 315, and they stick out from the rim a little bit. They bow out. Some people had kind of I was being too nitpicky, and I was basically being a little bit bitchy about that tire. The problem with that tire is that particular tire does stick out more, and I had to make some adjustments to my inner fender well. The original setup that I had on my replicas was the old school Nitto 305-35-20s, just the regular Tri-5R, which fit the rim way better. They're straight up and down on the rim. And they work better in general from a looks point of view, and they perform just fine, but they didn't rub as much. Now, the only tire that I'm aware of that fits that mold, pardon the pun, but the only tire that I know of now that fits that mold is going to be the Mickey Thompson ET Street SS. With one added benefit is that they're the same height, they're the same tallness, both tires are the same height. The 305 3520 from Mickey Thompson ET Street SS is kind of designed to work with a 275 40 front tire. So there's that. They're not probably nearly as good in the rain, but they'll hook up way better in dry conditions. At least that's been my experience. Oh, Christian's asking, I may have already mentioned this, but what are your thoughts or concerns on Challenger and Charger going away to make room for the EV? Are you excited about the e-muscle? Well, that's part of what I'll be talking about next week. But, spoiler alert, I'm a huge proponent of EVs. I understand EVs. I understand the powertrains. I understand a lot of how they work, but I don't understand why it's a political thing. To me, it's just a powertrain. It's a different way to put torque to the rear wheels and make a bunch of smoke come out of the tires, right? So maybe I'm naive, or maybe my brain doesn't work like that. Some people's does, but I mean, I understand the concept and I understand why it works so well. The point of that is, am I upset to see the internal combustion engine stuff go? Yeah, because you're killing an entire market segment for a product that may or may not live up to the hype and that may or may not find a home in the marketplace. Look, the last thing you want to do is be late to this party the way Dodge is and not build a clientele for yourself on this EV platform. We're not seeing anything worth really talking about. And here's my prediction. And I could be very wrong about this, but I have a feeling that the EV crap's going to come out and it's going to be too damn expensive. It's going to be, regardless of how fast it is, it'll, number one, be too expensive. And number two, I think that the sales are going to be a bit flaccid. And I think you're going to start seeing hybrids. I think the GME T6 is going to be on the forefront of that, and you're going to start seeing a lot of cars like that. It just mollywop the EV car sales, because people, look, man, you got to have a place to charge this bitch. If you live in a apartment complex, what do you do? Run your extension cord out to your car? That's how you ain't got an extension cord no more. All right. There's not going to be like charging stations at every place. That's not how this works. So anyway, people argue about infrastructure all the time. I argue about reality. I argue about, like, I remember not having any money, living in an ass out apartment, where, sounds and smells coming from other apartments are a real thing you contend with daily. Look, I understand that shit. So, that guy ain't gonna be able to afford an EV. EV, that's rich man's toy as far as I'm concerned at this stage of the game. So anyway, we'll see. She was saying, I can't go to my local dealer with my scat sellers. They try to convince me to sell my 392. Kind of annoying when just trying to get oil. Happens every time. Yeah, they're desperate for cars. Chuck is out. Long day tomorrow. Great show again, brother. We'll see you, Chuck. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you, man. 9X is saying, what's the best rear axle setup for a ProCharge 2006 Chrysler 300? New stock or go with the performance upgrade? Go with the performance upgrade. Even if it's a 262 with a limited slip, I'd prefer to see a 309 in it, though. If it doesn't have one already. If it's got a 309 now, because I can't remember off the top of my head if that thing had a 309, that was a 262. You go 370, 373, whatever it is. But the problem with that is that swap is real expensive. Roy's checking out saying, good night, Chuck. And guys, I got to check out too. We are coming up on 2 hours. Usually these late nights don't go this long. So Anyway, guys, I got to wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me. Could not, would not do this without you. Love each and every one of you. Guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it more than you know. If you're going to say it, don't bend it, keep your shiny side up. And with that, I am up out of here. Y'all have a great one. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Adios.